thank God. Yes, sir. Indeed. Mountain West, climbing the mountain yet again. Fun conference here. Always good stuff. I think we have West Coast Conference tomorrow / they're basically Pac-12 at 2. Big East Thursday. And then ACC, Big 12, Big 10, SEC. That's 6 conferences left. So I think we're at what? There's 32 conferences, so this would be preview preview 25 tonight. So good stuff here, guys. How we feeling going over the Mountain West Conference? Last night we did the Missouri Valley Conference. Maybe Elliot's got his top 11 to share, and then we can maybe discuss that later down the road. So stay tuned on that. But we do have 12 teams in the Mountain West, not 10 this year. 2 additions, not Northern Illinois, but they are some good teams that we'll talk about. How we feeling about the Mountain West? Elliot, sorry, guys. Elliot, Trevor, what's up?
What's up, man? Doing good. Sorry I missed last night, but as we progress for throughout this final previews, it just gets better and better. Talking a lot of ball that that I would assume more regulars know of. So I'm assuming more people will hop in and have more to say about these bigger conferences as we continue to progress to the upper echelon. But I've enjoyed talking all the lower ball.
You're on mute, Trevor.
Yeah, it's gonna be another great year of Mountain West basketball. Always delivers.
Yeah, I mean, Mountain West definitely always delivers. I think it's definitely entertaining. I don't know if my laundry's going insane, if you can hear that or not, but the Mountain is always good. Home teams fare well in this conference historically. The spirit of some of these teams and student sections, these places can get jumping. And the school spirit is proud for Mountain West teams, that's for sure. A little up in the air, always up in the air. There's always your competitive basketball teams for the most part, but anyone can take that jump, to say the least. But there have been some guys, cellar dwellers, for most recent, maybe some gambling scandals, some other things as well. But any final thoughts before we dive into the Mountain West preview number 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32? Excuse me. So this is preview 26. 6 more previews left after this, with 2 only this week. Incredible stuff, guys. November 3rd, we'll be here before we know it. November 2nd will be the big gambling slate. So make sure to tune in. On November 2nd is our final week of previews next week, and then a couple futures episodes that week, and then maybe discussing a little bit of the November 3rd slate, and then that Sunday will be the dive in for the big betting episode. Can you believe it, guys? We're just around the corner.
Yeah, excited. Can't wait for Hoops to be back.
Yeah, man. I'm jacked. I can't wait. November 3rd. It's been circled on my calendar for a long time. So it'll be fun to kind of get back into the swing of things, just in terms of day in and day out watching a bunch of college hoops. I got the new TV set up here in my house, so I'm excited to deploy that when we get those 10 to 16 games at once. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. I mean, I'm not trying to make announcements, but maybe I got a TV setup coming my way. Just stay tuned on that. We'll be diving in this season in 2025-26, but we're climbing that mountain first, and we start at the bottom of the mountain to tune in. Air Force, the Falcons, U.S. Air Force Academy. Can't remember the exact city, but last season 4-28. 1-19 in the Mountain West, 2 returning starters. Joe Scott, 94. and 169 under 9 years for Air Force.
Colorado Springs, by the way.
Yes, Colorado Springs.
Sorry, I was muted.
But from a remote an unknown location, we keep our troops sane. So and safe. I hope they keep us safe. We need to keep them safe. But yeah, they're in Colorado Springs, I guess. So anyway, no disrespect to the troops, but holy cow, your team could not figure out the trajectory to shoot a basketball, but they definitely could figure out the trajectory for driving massive vehicles in the air. But it's more important. I don't know. College basketball is pretty important, but I don't know. It's probably important. But you do bring back your lone return, your top scorer, 7-foot big man, Wesley Selichowski. I think could take a big jump for Air Force, get them at least a few more wins, make them kind of a more presence down low, at least to say the least, a little more athletic. They're going to try to grind you out. Some seasons they've been able to kind of do that run and gun style, but this season I think they're going to have that grinded out kind of style. They have a lot of length, 6'9", 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" wing. So they're building for the future. Coach Scott been there for 9 years, graduated from Princeton. He knows that Princeton offense back in the 80s and 90s that works so well. But so I think he is a good coach. I just think talent-wise, basketball, it's definitely going to be a step back, or not a step back, but just a continued issue. But if they can find a couple shooters, they maybe could get some wins. They weren't really competitive in non-con at all with that record. It's going to be a tough year for the Falcons. No disrespect to the troops, but they're going to be the bottom barrel of this conference.
Yeah, it's going to be another classic bad Air Force team. 2 returning players, only 3 players have 100-plus minutes. No seniors on this team. They're yet again just stuck with another wildly mediocre at best roster. So Air Force basement dweller for me too. Not much to be excited about.
Yeah, and we've routinely talked about this with these military academies. The transfer portal era has just hit them really hard in terms of if they bring in recruits that produce and are talented, they usually get picked off and transfer out. However, they can't bring any transfers in, so it's always rebuilding in the freshman class or through their prep school. So that's kind of the unfortunate nature and beast of the transfer portal era with these military schools. The loss of their top 2 scorers are going to be really young. It's not like they can't bring in talent. Jake Heidbreder, he transferred to Clemson. Now he's back. We'll talk about him later. He's back in the Mountain West. It's a different team. Reedus Petritis, he was there last year, was their top scorer. He's at Cal now. And then Corbin Green, another guy from Air Force who transferred to Texas Tech. So it's not like they have a lack of talent. It's a lack of just retaining that talent due to the unfortunate circumstances just with being a military school. Like you said, they bring back the 7-footer. Watch for him to kind of shoot more threes this year. I think he hit 17 last year in limited amount of minutes. So I think they're going to expect more volume from him. And then another guy that they'll expect to take a step up is Caleb Walker. He was kind of their 6th man go-to guy last year, averaged 6.5 points. So if they're going to be somewhat formidable and provide good competition, they'll need a lot from him. And they'll also need a lot from Kyle Marshall. He's a guy who ended up starting about 17, 18 games as a freshman last year, kind of got thrown into the fire because they didn't have any other guard experience. So he's really the only experienced guard that they have on that roster, averaged 7 points a game. So again, those 3 guys are going to have to be, lead the team in scoring. And, they've Coach Scott there, he thinks they brought in some good talent, via the prep school and just some other high schools. However, it's unproven. So hard to say anything in terms of what they brought in, but you never know. Like I said, they've brought in talent before. It's just keeping that talent is the problem. But yeah, you're spot on, Huff. I think, bottom of the conference. I think there's a significant gap even between them and, you could maybe make a case for Fresno State, San Jose State being kind of right there. But I would say that there's a significant even step between Air Force and the 11th team here in the Mountain West.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd have to agree with everyone. So, Air Force, not flying high, but thank you, troops. Appreciate you, future troops. Boise State Broncos out of Boise, Idaho, last season 26-11, 14-6. Two returning starters under Coach Leon Rice, proven record there. An absolute stud and a guy that's kind of had talent and built that program up. You know, from the old Taco Bell arena. I mean, some just legendary stuff back in the day. But you do lose Tyson Degenhart and a couple other producers. They just missed the NCAA tournament just a little bit. One of the first four out last year. So they definitely are losing a lot of talent. So, but I think Leon Rice brings in just as much talent. UCLA transfer Dylan Andrews comes into Boise State. I think he's going to make an immediate jump. And then you also have a freshman coming in, Aginaldo Nito from Angola, an NBA Academy Africa product. I think he's going to be for all freshmen there. And then you have Pearson Carmichael, who you returned last year. He had 7 points per game as well. And then I know I'll let Elliot touch on a couple players he mentioned as well. But they're also building for the future, kind of got a lot of depth with freshmen as well. I think their talent is definitely going to be there. And they're going to the Maui Invitational Tournament this year. So that'll be a fun watch for Boise State. Absolutely. And I think Drew Fielder, 6'11" junior, absolute stud muffin. Looking forward to see him. 6'11" transfer at Georgetown, committed to USC. It's kind of all over the place. So, but in this transfer portal, as we all know, and that's why we love these previews. We learn the roster, their depth, and I think the Boise State just has that, even with losing Degenhart and like Alvaro, whatever that guy's name was, that transferred. So, I mean, I can't say Leon Rice isn't going to be a good coach and not have even his talent work with it. But the pieces he brings in are super exciting for Boise State.
Yeah, a lot of new pieces on this roster, but Leon Rice has still been excellent. No Degenhart or Cardenas anymore in that starting lineup, so that's a big blow. But they still have a collection of talented guys and players on this team. So if they can get them to produce and they can get this team clicking, it's going to be another good team in the Mountain West here. But I'm just curious to see how they'll do without Degenhart for the first time in 4 years. He was a huge part of that success they had. So I think they'll be good. I don't think they'll be as good as last year's team. Obviously, I think they're taking a step back.
Yeah, I think they're going to be here in this top four. I think tied fourth last year with Degenhart coming in as a senior. You had Alvaro, I forget his last name, but as the point guard there. But I think it was a very disappointing year for them, despite the fact that they were 26-11. I think 14-6 there in the Mountain West. I think they had aspirations of at least getting to their fourth straight NCAA tournament, but also they're one game away from winning that Mountain West tournament title against Colorado State. So the fact that they finished 14-6, tied fourth, I think maybe a little disappointment. They do bring back several pieces that I think are going to have to just kind of step up collectively to fill that void from losing their starting point guard and Degenhart. Pearson Carmichael, he's going to be a guy that they're going to look for, average 7 points. He kind of debuted halfway through the season, so I think he'll take a significant step forward. Julian Bowie is another guy, didn't get much playing time last year, but shot 33% from the three, averaged about 4 points a game. RJ Keene, another guy, guard, who didn't really play much, but they're going to expect a significant step forward from him as well. And then Andrew Meadow, he's a guy that I think is going to be one of their key players this year. Averaged 12.5 last year, shot 35% from the three. Then lastly, another guy, that was there last year, and he was the Mountain West Sixth Man of the Year. It was Javon Buchanan, averaged just under 10 points a game, 4 rebounds a game. So they returned, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that played significant minutes and contributed significantly, and all 5 of those guys collectively are just going to have to step up and play a bigger role, because of what Boise State lost. And then kind of 2 guys I think that have been within the system for a couple years that I would say that will make a significant impact as well is Ethan Lathan. He redshirted last year. And then I kind of have a guy that I'm high on is Dominique Parolin. He was a redshirt last year, redshirted due to injury. But the year before that, he was at Lehigh, averaged 11.5 points a game, was third-team All-Patriot. So I expect him to kind of make a splash just because he's been in Leon Rice's system for a year, has kind of been able to understand that during his redshirt year. So I expect for him to be a guy that's relied upon as well. And you bring up Huff, you brought up Dylan Andrews. I just think he's a guy, that's the guy that's going to be, I think possibly he's going to be even better than Alvaro, just because, top 50 recruit coming back from UCLA, bouncing back. Small step back in competition wise, but I think he's just going to be able to find his groove. And I think Leon Rice is going to be able to, provide that coaching experience to help him succeed at this level. So I'm really high on Dylan Andrews. Think he could possibly be the newcomer of the year here in the Mountain West.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Julian Bowie as well. I think that's a great call out. I think he could definitely take a jump for that team. 100%. Colorado State, the Rams out of Fort Collins last season, 26-10, 16-4 in the Mountain West. Finished second, 1 returning starter, but who is that? It's not year 2, that's for damn sure. It's his first year. That's a mistake. Ali Farokmanesh, we all know and love him. Northern Iowa on the wing in transition. Does he just go for the easy layup off the pass? No. Easy spot up, bang 3, absolute gonads. And you've been under Nico Medved now and take over the Colorado State job. So good continuity there for the Rams. I like Colorado State. You lose Clifford. I mean, so many major pieces from last season that I think is going to set you back. Did they overperform last year? No, they had a lot of talent. So that means you lose a lot of talent. But first-year coach, Farokmanesh knows what it takes to win in college basketball at every level, which I think is so important. And he has a lot of talent. Shout out Kerry Booth, son of Calvin Booth, NBA legend, played for the Nuggets from Illinois. So I think he's going to make an immediate impact right away. I really like that they have some height. They're going to stick to, I think, that Colorado State way. Maybe develop more shooting under Farokmanesh, but they've always had shooters as well too. So, but another team that grinds you out, plays really physical, likes to go down low, and they kind of just overall are a good team regardless of the talent. So I think they'll be a middle of the road this year. They're definitely way better than the bottom teams in this conference, but physically, they're going to be competitive. It'll be interesting to see how Farokmanesh does in year 1 winning-wise. But I think in Mountain West, they'll be middle of the road.
Yeah, Farokmanesh, new head coach here. They lost 40 points a game in their starting lineup, along with the new head coach. They got a lot of young guys, so those young guys are going to get chances. So if they can figure out a solid rotation or hit on a few of these freshmen, and young guys, I think they'll be fine. But given it's year 1, you're losing all that talent from last year's team, including the coaching. Starting over, I think at best they kind of finish in the middle of the pack. I think they could kind of maybe finish a step or so back from there. But I believe in Farokmanesh. I think he's going to get his guys in there, and he's gonna be just fine in a couple of years at Colorado State.
Do you guys think that was a good move for Nico to go to Minnesota? I know it was his alma mater, but what are your thoughts in regards to him moving to the Power 5, even though that Minnesota's kind of a wherever coach goes to die?
Why wouldn't it be? I mean, where a coach goes to die, yeah. I mean, I guess. I mean, Tubby Smith had a decent run for Minnesota, and
And you
his.
also, I mean, and also, you think Colorado State next year they'll be in the Pac-12. So
But what is the Pac-12 compared to the Big
good,
Ten money?
good basketball school. I don't
Great
know
basketball school,
I don't
but
know what it'll be, but you're getting Gonzaga, you're getting the top 5 teams here in the Mountain West going. So I mean, I don't know. I see it because it was his alma mater, but I just didn't know if it was a good move because I mean he was seeing good success there at Colorado State. So I was just seeing what you guys thought.
it's time to dive into the deep end in college basketball. That's what it takes to win, and dive into the deep end in the P5. It doesn't matter what the school is. That's the Big Ten money that you're getting. That's the top of the de la creme of this conference. There's a reason we're doing that preview last. We're super excited, always for Big Ten. And if you're going to take that jump to the Big Ten, that's just a different type of money. I think it's a no brainer. But yeah, I mean, for winning, it's definitely different, but change is good in college basketball for the most part. It can be, but I definitely think they still have NIL funding at least. Maybe they'll dive in more to the basketball and get the spirit going. But yeah, tough few years there. But I think it's a no-brainer going to the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
So so in terms of Colorado State, I feel like he's got some good pieces to work with. He brought in some good pieces that I was pretty impressed with, coming from kind of the high major ranks, and also a few guys that were successful down there at the mid major ranks. One guy that I'm not sure if anybody mentioned, but 2 returners, Rashawn Mimba, he averaged 7 points, 4 rebounds. I think he's going to be a big key for them, just being the one lone kind of starter back in that system. For him to stay kind of says a lot about him and his character. The other one that I was hoping would stay was Jalen Crocker-Johnson, but he, however, just followed Coach Medved to Minnesota. But Fruit Winesh also has a couple red shirts. John McConan, they think he was probably the most athletic player on the team last year, even though he was red shirt. That's including Nikkei Clifford. And then Darnez Slater, he's another guy, 6'3" guard, can kind of do it all, just does everything the right way. He'll be one of those guys that's relied upon heavily. But then you talk about your incoming guys, Augustinus Cudulis from VMI, our favorites. VMI averaged 15.6 rebounds last year. I think he's going to be a stretch 4 guy that can play several positions and be good for that system there that's been implemented at Colorado State. And then another guy, Josh Pasquarelli from Marist, shout out Crutch, averaged 16 points and shot about 40% from the 3, was first team all MAAC last year. So he'll make an immediate impact as well. And then you even got some guys from kind of the higher majors, and Jace Butler from Washington, and then Brandon Reichsteiner from Virginia Tech, who I think will be pieces that he can definitely rely upon, just being at that high mid-major level. So I like what he brought in. Another guy, Jevin Muniz, came from Florida Gulf Coast, averaged 11.6 rebounds, 5 assists. So, I really like the pieces he brought in. I think they do take maybe a small step back, but, I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, Coach Medved, he left, and then Nikkei Clifford got drafted 24th overall, and then they lose Jalen Lake to graduation. Kyron Evans transfers. I think they're just going to be – people are going to kind of jump ship, whereas I don't think they're going to take a significant step back like some may think. So I'm still pretty high on Colorado State, and, the fact that elevation there, the home court elevation is always key as well for a good home court advantage. And I will say they proved me wrong last year. We talked about Isaiah, I can't remember his last name, but that guard that was there for 4 or 5 years. I thought they were going to take a little step back with the loss in production last year, and they sure as hell proved me wrong. So I think that they're going to prove a lot of people wrong this year and kind of stay very, very near the top of the Mountain West.
All right. Yeah, can agree. Fresno State, definitely not on top of the Mountain West. They're at base camp. Last season, 6-26, 2-18, 10th. That is dead last with the 2 additions because the Pac-12 is forming. The mountain is changing. Some convergent motion in the tectonic plate force under the mountain. Wahlberg dealt with gambling problems. dealt with bad play, lack of defense. Fresno State was an auto fade last year. Made me a lot of money betting against it was depressing for Wahlberg. I think he just didn't know what he was walking into. Just got slapped in the face. Man, they lack competitive edge, I think. And I just don't see them continuing to find new shooters to this team. I mean, no disrespect to any of the players brought in. There's a guy from Green Bay coming in, Trev, David Douglas Jr. He got out of Gottlieb. He's like, I'm going to go gamble in Fresno, California. Don't blame him. So, I mean, they got athletes. They just, like I said, just lack that competitive edge. They don't really play defense too well. They can't shoot the ball. They can't rebound well. That's probably pretty bad to not have one of the better stat lines for the Big Four stats in basketball. So 6-26, 2-18. I hope they can take a jump in the final season of the Mountain West before they move on to the Pac-12. But then we got a Kansas City guy too as well coming in, Cameron Fast. So maybe he does add some shooters. Looking at their roster that they add in, but talent-wise in this conference, I just don't think they match up anywhere against these other teams.
Yeah, not much exciting going off of Fresno. One returning starter, only 5 with D1 experience. They got 2 freshmen coming in from overseas who played on their country's U20 team. So they got a little bit of experience there with those 2 guys. But the roster's really young. On paper, they have some potential pieces. But I think Fresno will be better than last year, winning more than 2 games in the Mountain West. But I don't see them making a giant leap forward this year. But they will be better than Air Force. That I do know.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the 26 losses. That is the school record for losses in a year. So definitely a terrible year and for Fresno State there. I will say, the one returning starter is Zion Collins. He's the starting point guard. So if you're going to return one guy, it's probably good to have a starting point guard. That's probably your best player. Average 12.5, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. So that's kind of a good starting point. Another guy, David Douglas Jr., he only played in 6 games, got injured. So I think they could have been a little bit better if he wouldn't have been injured. And then they, you mentioned they kind of brought in some pieces that maybe shoot the 3 better. A couple guys that I'll bring up was that Jake Heidbreder comes from Clemson by way of Air Force, shot 37% from the 3. And then Cameron Fast, the guy from UMKC, shot 36% from the 3. So I think they tried a little bit to bring in some more shooters because they were, in the 300s in shooting percentage last year. Another guy, Troy Jenkins, he redshirted last year. Don't really know too much about him, but he's kind of a guy that supposedly will maybe come off the bench and be a good outside shooter for them. And then Wahlberg he went into the portal, but he kind of went international. I mean, three freshmen from France, 1 from Italy, 1 from Mexico, and 1 from Germany. So a lot of international players. It'll be interesting to see how those styles and just how all of that, international experience can kind of mesh, if it can, with the American players that they have. So curious. I think they're kind of a wild card. Maybe he hits a home run with some of those guys there internationally, and they are a little better. But I agree with you, Huff. The fact that, looking as a whole, the people that they bring in, when you compare them to the other teams of the Mountain West and what they brought in, it doesn't compare. Way below what a lot of those other teams have brought in. So I expect Fresno State to be near the bottom once again, but hopefully they can kind of take a little small step forward before they head to the Pac-12.
Yes, the mountain going away. But wait, there's people going on to the mountain as well. Welcome to the mountain. Grand Canyon, the Lopes, Phoenix, Arizona, a year earlier than expected with the appeals. So not a Pac-12 team. They're going to get the jump and the grandfather in for the Mountain West. Woo! 26-8. 1 returning starter, Coach Bryce Drew, 120 and 40. Legendary Bryce Drew. slid on the floor against Mississippi, 94, whatever that was. But yeah, you lose a lot of your pieces: Coles, Grant Foster, Duke Brennan, Ray Harrison, and your only top returners, Mekhi Williams, who just couldn't really shoot the ball last year. You do bring a good bench player in Caleb Shaw, who's a 43% 3-point shooter. So efficiency was there, just wasn't as many attempts. So maybe more usage from him this year that could be dangerous for 3 points there. So you bring in Brian Moore Jr. from Norfolk State. That's some good size. Added MEAC regular season winner, Norfolk State NCAA tournament appearance. So this guy's a stud. Talent-wise, Grand Canyon is going to be able to compete immediately off the jump from the WAC. I don't think there's an issue whatsoever. You also got Jaden Henley as well. Jaden Henley's an absolute amazing piece that I think is going to be a force to be reckoned with for Grand Canyon. I think depth-wise, talent-wise, they're one of the best teams in the conference. It'll just be interesting for them seeing, some of these home teams like the Pitt and just Colorado State, Utah State, a lot of these tough places to play could be an issue after coming from the WAC. But, they definitely have been in some tough environments. They know what it takes. But yes, a whole new jump, a whole new look, and a lot of good talent for Grand Canyon. I think that's going to translate for them being competitive immediately in the mountain.
Yeah, I like this Grand Canyon team. Bryce Drew is a really good coach. Only 3 returning starters, but Grant Foster, Jacoby Goles, and Duke Brennan. Big guys to get back. The transfer portal they got. A lot of solid guys, shooters, guards, big men down low. They addressed everything, and all these guys have great experience and talent. So Bryce Drew is a great coach. I have faith in them hitting the ground running here in the Mountain West. So I'm pretty high on Grand Canyon this year in the Mountain West.
Jacoby Coles did leave the conference or the team, by the way. Duke Brennan.
Oh, I must have misread that. I don't give it. Regardless, they're still going to be a damn good team. Bryce Drew and everything else they brought into this this roster, I'll put faith in them. Once I see Bryce Drew shit the bed, then maybe I'll stop giving him the benefit of the doubt. But he's going to be damn good this year in the Mountain West.
Yeah, I'm very bullish and very high on Grand Canyon this year, despite them losing their top.
You're lopish on them. Yeah,
I'm bullish, however you want to say it. Only returning 3 players. They lost their top 3, tying Grant Foster, Jacoby Coles, and the other guard. I can't think of his name right now. I think they're going to have one of the best backcourts with Brian Moore Jr. and Dusty Stromer from Gonzaga. He transfers back from Gonzaga, didn't play as much. I'm very high on Dusty Stromer. I think he might be one of those guys that is newcomer of the year potential. Only averaged 4 points, shot 34% from 3. But I think he's better than that. And I think the fact that he's got a great backcourt mate in Brian Moore Jr., and you had brought, you had spoke highly of him. He was the Lou Henson Award last year for top mid-major player in the country. So the fact that Bryce Drew was able to bring him over, I think those 2 guys are going to be, a solid backcourt and going to definitely pose a problem here in the Mountain West. You also mentioned Jaden Henley. I'll mention Caleb Smith, UC Riverside. Came from coached by Magpia, who's now at Fordham, but averaged 11 points, shot about 33%. And then from 3, they bring in also Wilhelm Bradenbach from Washington. So a big kind of just big piece, big size guy to kind of plop in the middle and be kind of a rim protector. And then they brought in some good freshmen as well. One guy that I think is going to be almost the most important piece on this team is Nana Owusu-Anani, as you guys remember maybe from Brown 2 years ago with Kinu Lilly and him. He sat out last year, medical redshirt, due to a torn labrum in his shoulder. I think he's a guy that maybe has been forgotten about just because he was out of college basketball for a year. But I think he's going to play that kind of Jacoby Coles role, but be even better in that because he's more athletic, and I think he can guard a little bit better as well. And then another guy that's redshirted last year, Braylon Johnson, brother of Cam Johnson. If you guys watch the NBA at all, Cam Johnson played for the Nets. I think he was at UNC in college, but now he's with the Nuggets. So a guy that's 6'9", size, good size for the guard position, shoots it really well, and is very athletic. And another redshirt that they had last year, Dennis Evans, is a guy that started 5 games at Louisville the year before. So a guy with high Power 5 potential that is now kind of at this Grand Canyon level. So when I was talking about Fresno State before this is kind of the team that I was comparing them to. And I'm like, the pieces that Coach Drew brought in are significantly far and above what anything that Fresno State and a lot of the teams in the Mountain West brought in. So I'm very high. I'm lopish on Grand Canyon this year. You spoke on it earlier, just Mountain West having good home environments. Think about this home environment now being added to the Mountain West for at least this year. It's going to be lit, great environment. As always, it's always a great environment there in the WAC. I think it'll be even better now that they're playing higher competition. So I can't wait for San Diego State to come in there, Utah State to come in there and see that place rocking. So I'm excited for this team. And I think they're gonna finish very high here in the Mountain West in their first year. And really, if you think about it, their only year to prove it with the amount of talent that's in the Mountain West, because after this year, they're going to be kind of cream of the crop here when the top 5 or top 4 plus Fresno State leave for the Pac-12.
All right, the Nevada Wolfpack, Reno, Nevada, last season 17-16, 8-12 out of the Mountain West, finished 7th. A very disappointing year. One returning starter for Steve Alford, who's won at Nevada. Definitely have made some NCAA tournament appearance, but hasn't done well in the NCAA tournament. But a major disappointing year. They just couldn't shoot the ball last season. And I apologize. There's 0 returning starters for Nevada. So a whole new look, and Alford had to kind of go dive into the portal that I think my friends can touch on here. But I think this is a wild card team. A team that maybe doesn't have all the favoritism going into this preseason, and then kind of just comes out of nowhere, with the talent that they did bring in. So it is an interesting gamble. Some NAI pieces, some JUCO pieces, but I do think they bring in some decent shooters that they can rely upon more than their just front 5 or their first 6 guys. They do have a little more depth this season, and Alford knows how to win in this conference. This one will be interesting. I don't know if this is it or whatever, but I do love the pieces that they bring in. Let's see if they can shoot the ball a little bit better in Reno. I'm still up in the air on this team. Curious to hear your guys' takes, just because I have them kind of maybe potentially a high floor, but also a low ceiling. So just all over the place with Nevada here, in my opinion.
Yeah, lost 8 of their 9 scores, 86% of their scoring gone from last year. They brought in a lot of talented and experienced guys, like Tayshaun Coleman from Evansville and Vaughn Weems, the JUCO guy, but those guys average 43 points, 12 boards, and 6 assists a game. So they're both 2 guys that can produce. So if they can mesh together and adjust to this new competition, I think they'll be really good. I know Alford's got a history of choking, but they've got experience, size, and talent all on the roster. Great guard play. All they need is them to just work together. I think this team will be pretty good. I think they have a more likely chance of a higher ceiling than hitting the floor. But I like Nevada. I think they got chances and opportunities, and they're going to take advantage and be a respectable team this year in the Mountain West.
Yeah, I think losing Nick Davidson, transferring to Clemson, I think that's going to hurt them more than they maybe think. I'm not quite sure if the front court that they have will be able to kind of compete with the upper echelon teams in this conference. But yeah, you bring up a good point, Trev, with Comer coming over from Evansville. I think that's definitely proven. But that Vaughn Weems, I know he was second in scoring in the JUCO ranks last year. I just, it's one of those things where you got to see that translate from the JUCO up to one of the top tier teams or top tier D1 conferences. And same to say with Caleb Lowry, like you had mentioned, Huff, guy from the NAIA level, was a two-time first team all NAIA, All American, averaged 18 points, 10 rebounds, shot almost 39% from the three during those 2 seasons. But again, is that going to translate from that level to this D1 level now? So I think there's a lot of mystery with that, just because the guys that he brought in that were kind of making significant contributions were all kind of from the lower level. A couple guys that I'm kind of intrigued upon: Corey Camper from UTEP, averaged 10.5 points. Elijah Price, intra-conference transfer from Fresno State. And then Joel Armo Trading from UC Riverside, averaged about 6.6 rebounds. So again, guys that are kind of mid-major, taking another step up. Is it going to translate? I feel like that's going to tell. If it does translate and they're able to produce like they were at the lower level, I think Nevada could be one of those teams that does in fact have a higher ceiling and may surprise some people. I also think, you mentioned 0 returning starters. Technically, I would kind of say maybe they had one. Tyler Rollison is their point guard. He started a fourth of the season, so it doesn't really count as a starter, but he started the last quarter of the season for them. So they're getting that guy back. And like I had mentioned earlier, if you're going to return a guy, returning a point guard is kind of a key piece. So expect for him to take a major leap forward as a distributor to all these pieces that they brought in. So my thoughts on Nevada kind of in summary is, hey, is it going to translate to the next level? And that's going to tell you everything you're going to need to know about this team. Last year I was high on them, and they were kind of hit and miss. They played really well and they played very bad. They were very inconsistent, very streaky all season long. Very hard to bet on them one side or the other because they would get up for games and then they would just lay eggs. So we'll see what this season brings.
All right, the New Mexico Lobos out of Albuquerque, New Mexico, 27-8, 17-3, first in the conference regular season. 0 returning starters for Little Patino, but no more Eric Olin coming in from UC San Diego, the Tritons, who we just did a preview on. So coach swaps galore. Talent-wise, they're going to struggle, I think. I don't know if they're going to be at the top like we know, but we know the Pit's a tough place to play, a tough environment. You always can count on some home wins from this team. So I know they're going to be competitive, but I think Olin is defensive prowess. He's kind of a guru there in that department. And then if he brings in shooters like they had at UC San Diego, he's going to know how to win and finding a win. So I think it's a good hire, but this year may be a little readjustment to say the least. So, but again, they're always going to be competitive for the most part on the home court. So yeah, I like New Mexico here, but just not too high on them with the first year here for Olin.
Yeah, great year last year for Olin, but entirely new roster. No players are returning from this team. I don't think he even brought anybody over from UCSD with him. So not much D1 experience on this roster with the freshmen and some of the transfers they brought in from the lower levels. I don't know how good
he did bring a couple players from the Tritons.
He did? All right, I missed that. Well, regardless, but it's a majority of a young team. So I'm kind of curious how it'll all work out jumping up to this level after the success he had last year. Now you got a bunch of D2 and whatnot players. So I think it'll be an adjustment. They do have the Pit, so the Pit's always liable to jump up and catch somebody. But I don't think this team's going to be very competitive or anything like New Mexico basketball we're used to seeing lately, obviously with all the changes. So I think they'll be, slightly competitive, but I don't know how they're going to be able to close out games, especially with how young and inexperienced this roster is with players coming in from other levels of basketball. But I think they'll be competitive, but I don't think they're going to be sitting around the middle. I think they'll be more towards the 7, 8, 9 spots in this conference.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when I was kind of looking up their staff as a whole. I noticed that the only returning person on the entire staff, coaches, everything included, was their athletic trainer. So I thought that was just showed you the amount of overhaul that went into Patino going to Xavier and Olin coming over from UC San Diego. They only have one player with Mountain West experience. Kind of found it interesting for Utah State guy to transfer over, Dayton Albury. But you kind of see he fits Olin's system. Averaged only 8 points a game, but shot 43.5% from three. So something that, Olin likes to have in his players is that 3-point prowess. He did bring in a couple guys from kind of the higher majors. Kevin Patton from USC. Before that was West Coast Conference all freshman team the year before. He transferred to USC. Now he's kind of bouncing back. And then also brought in JT Rocks, 7'1" guy from Iowa State. Didn't really play much, but just a big guy down low who obviously has experience at the Big 12 level, if not on the court, at least in practice and playing, on a top 20 ranked team there in Iowa State. And then he brings in a couple other guys that can shoot the three really well. To Javis Miller from North Dakota State, shot at a 36.7% clip. And then Antonio Chol comes from Garden City Community College here in Kansas, shot it at about 40% clip. So brought in the pieces that kind of fits his system. And then he also brought in some guys from the D2 ranks. But as you know, Olin came from the D2. He's done well with kind of adjusting from D2 to D1 transition. So I wouldn't read too much into that, as he's had success with bringing in D2 players at that D1 level. And then, kind of misleading with the 0 returning starters. I mean, they bring back Milos Vicentich from UC San Diego, and then Chris Howell from UC San Diego. Howell's the one returning guy that was starting on that team last year. So, a couple guys that they bring in that has fit the system that they can kind of teach the other players around them. But I'm kind of with you guys. I'm maybe kind of in the middle with you. I'm not as low on him as Trev is, but I don't know if maybe I'm not as high on him as Huff is. But we'll see. We'll see what happens when we go through our rankings.
All right, the Aztecs out of San Diego State, not San Diego, the Toreros, but the San Diego State Aztecs. Last season, 21-10, 14-6 in the Mountain West, tied for fourth. 3 returning stars for Brian Dutcher. Final 4 appearance under this team, or national championship game appearance as well, too. 198 and 68. So proven winner. Great coach in Dutcher. He's always going to get these guys to work. They play a physically kind of style of play. They're gonna make defense win, and they're always going to be physical. So I know what we're going to get from San Diego State, and I think that's always going to be proven to win. And now you bring back some experience as well, and you're going to test yourself a lot in the non-conference. A lot of good bye games, and or outside of not many bye games. A lot of good games that they can play, and then also get some good home wins as well. This team's going to compete right away with Magoon Gua. Look out for him. Could be the player of this conference, and just making an immediate impact down low as just one of the best big men in this conference. So I love the Aztecs here. I think they're going to be a solid team, and Dutcher is going to get some revenge. I mean, he worked with what he got last year. Still got 21 wins, 4th in the conference. I think there's going to be some uneaten food on the table for Dutcher. I think he can do for the Mountain West this year in 25-26.
Yeah, I really like this team. 3 returning starters. They had a great season last year, and a lot of them were underclassmen given the injuries. So they played pretty well for freshmen and sophomores mainly. But Reese Waters is going to be back after missing last season with an injury. 6 of the 9 rotational pieces are back, and they got a really good front court with those bigs. And then Guath is back. They got another 7-footer down there, another 6'10" guy. Like, they have size to defend the rim and rebound. So that's going to be a huge plus. And then having all these returning pieces from last year's team that did make an NCAA tournament, they got their teeth kicked in, but they still made it, and it was a younger team. So, and they had injuries. So I think given the entire offseason here, a lot of these guys are back. Dutcher's still here, and he's an elite coach. I think this San Diego State team is going to make serious noise in the Mountain West this year if they stay healthy.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that. I'm very high on them as well. Like you said, Trev, 3 freshmen, 3 sophomores last year got to the NCAA tournament. You lose Reese Waters, who was first team preseason, all Mountain West. So it just shows you that the coaching job that Brian Detcher can do and just the type of coach and the talent that he has as a coach. You mentioned those big games. They got games against Michigan, Oregon, Arizona. If you remember last year in one of those games, they pushed Houston to overtime there in Las Vegas. So now they turn around and they play the Michigan and Oregon, I think they're in Vegas this year. So they're not scared to test themselves, which is going to be very important, and kind of season themselves before Mountain West play. Guy I'll mention, Miles Bird, big time guy, big time guard, 6'7", kind of tested the NBA waters, but then decided to come back to school. Kind of does everything, averages 12 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block. Just kind of stuffs the stats. And then couple guys that they brought in. They brought in several returners, which is exciting, especially for the amount of talent and the success that they had last year. But then you bring in pieces like Sean Newman Jr. from Louisiana Tech, averaged 10 points, 8 assists. You've got Latrell Davis from San Jose State, intra-conference transfer, 11 points a game, plays tenacious defense, a guy that I know Tim Miles will definitely miss this year. And then you got a guy that I think a lot of people have forgotten about, and Jeremiah Oden, comes from Charlotte. However, for 3 years he was at Wyoming, and was one of those key pieces when Wyoming had the left, Graham Ike, and a couple of those other guys on those really successful Wyoming teams like 3 or 4 years ago. So now Jeremiah Oden returns. He broke his foot last year. He returns to the Mountain West. So you bring in a bunch of freaking guys here into a team that's already, gained the experience that was required with all the injuries last year. So I'm very high on them as well. And I think the sky's the limit for them, barring any injuries, as you said, Trev.
All high on the Aztecs. San Jose State, maybe not.
I got to dip out to Kerms quick.
All right, man.
I got to dip out.
San Jose, California, last season 15-20, 7-13 in the Mountain West, finished 8th, 0 returning starters for Tim Miles, who we always say is such a good coach, but let the record stand. I called this out last season. But anyway, Mountain West, tough place to win. Whole new rebrand for San Jose State. Maybe it's a good thing with their roster, but I don't know. I think this team, again, is just going to be another step back compared to a lot of these teams. Miles has been all over the place. He is a good coach. He's got a lot of stuff, but I think this is where he's just kind of like, throwing it up to the wolves with this Mountain West, because he just hasn't had the talent to compete in this conference as much for San Jose State. That is, you do bring back Jermaine Washington, so it's good that there's some familiarity there, but just a lack of scoring. I think this is going to be an issue, but could be good long term if they're going to continue to invest in Tim Miles. They got a lot of younger pieces, so could be good for the future there for the Spartans. Hold on, I got my computer. You can finish. You're going to say what you're going to do. I'll be right back in one.
Yeah, so like Huff said, one of those. Tim Miles is one of those coaches. I think he's a good coach. He's kind of been dealt a bad hand here with San Jose State. Just hard place to kind of recruit. They don't have a lot of good funding there. Their leading returning scorer that they bring back is Cedric Nagut, averaged 7 points and 3 rebounds. And a couple other guys that are on red shirts, Ben Roseborough and Christian Wise. He was on a medical red shirt towards ACL last year. So some guys that have been within Coach Miles' system. I'm just not sure if, the talent level is there. However, being in his system will benefit them. And then they bring in a lot of pieces from the mid-major ranks and a couple guys from kind of the the bounce back high majors as well. One guy that I'm pretty high on, point guard Colby Garland, comes from Longwood, averaged 12 points, 3 rebounds, 4.5 assists. I think he's going to be kind of their go-to starting point guard this year. And then you got Javon Hanna from Western Michigan, averaged 12 points, 4 rebounds. Kind of a bounce back guy from the high major ranks there in the SEC. From Mississippi State, Adrian Myers. We'll kind of see how he can, what kind of impact he can have here in the Mountain West. Barely played there in the SEC. And then you got 2 Yaffets. You got Yaffet with a Y and Yaffet with a J. Yaffet Mundi comes from Iona, averaged 10 points, 7.5 rebounds. And then Yaffet Moupadele from France. He's a freshman. Last guy that I'll mention, Marcus Overstreet, came from Mercer, averaged 6 points, 5 rebounds. So another guy that they bring in from the mid-major ranks. Again, like I was telling the guys earlier, you look at what Grand Canyon did with bringing in these transfers, and you look at the talent, and you look at the level of players that people are bringing in, and what San Diego State's doing, what Colorado State's doing, what Grand Canyon's doing is significantly better than what San Jose State's doing here with bringing in the players. So I feel like it's been nice. I mean, you look at Tim Miles' 2 years there. He's made 2 postseason tournaments. He made the NIT last year, despite the 15-20 season, and he also made the CBI quarterfinals 2 years ago when his team was 21-12 there at San Jose State. So I think they'll be competitive. However, I just don't see them being in this top half of the conference with the discrepancy in talent that they have.
UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas. The Running Rebels, Las Vegas, Nevada, last season 18-15, 11-9 under Lon Kruger's son. I can't think of his first name. 0 returning starters. And Josh Pastner getting his Vegas residency. He must have a gambling addiction or something now that he's going to coach. Not a bad gig. I mean, just, you're in UNLV. A guy that's been in the booth may become more analytically sound. So a little step back coaching and now going to UNLV. So I think it's going to be interesting and definitely a good jump. Pastor's been able to win. Maybe this will be better for a year one coach than some that we've talked about. They do bring in some great pieces, but I don't know. This team is not just the same program. I mean, as like a year one for Olin and New Mexico, even without the talent. So they don't get those like free bye wins and home games and stuff like that are just like easier to win. So, but the pieces and talent that you bring in are definitely good. And I think they're going to have a ton of depth, and I like their guard play a lot. And I think they're going to test themselves a lot in the Players Era Festival. They got a lot of good pieces for non-con that could translate over into conference play with the amount they're playing. So Pastner, year one, maybe an interesting, okay, a little bit, definitely above 500, similar record as last year, but I think it's going to be a jump up and a good propel for the future, I'd hope, down the road. But again, I don't know. Pastner may just be wanting to just do some roulette numbers at the Flamingo or Circus or some other random bootleg.
Cortez. He seems like a Cortez guy.
I won big money at Cortez. It was Black 13, Friday the 13th. There was one bet.
He seems like he gets the 50-cent tacos at Cortez Taco Tuesday.
Oh, yeah. Where are those at? 50-cent tacos.
But yeah, I agree with Raymond. This is one of the most out of nowhere hirings I can remember.
It's gambling addiction. It's because he has a gambling addiction.
I know, but how in the hell did he even get UNLV to offer him? Is my thing.
It's like Bruno Mars of basketball, basically. You just have a residency in Vegas, but you're just stuck there. Yeah, you got to coach UNLV.
Yeah, so Pastner, Memphis to Georgia Tech to TV to now UNLV. My biggest thing is he's been out of the game for 2 years now. I think he was there doing TV analyst stuff for 2 years. So can he flip the switch and just immediately get back into that coaching mode? That'll be what I'm most interested to see. You got one returner from the entire team last year, and it was Kevin Kruger. Thanks, Raymond. Kevin Kruger, son of Lon Kruger. But one returner, Jacob Barnaby, didn't really play, averaged like a point a game and only played 9 games. So heavily emphasized the portal. And, you know, I kind of actually like what he did. He did get a good amount of talent, I think, in my mind. You know, he brought in Draven Gibbs Lawhorn from Illinois. Wasn't playing very much, but still significant Big Ten kind of bounce back kid. So he's obviously talented. And then Miles Che, he's a guy that I was really high on. I loved watching him play at UC Irvine. Averaged 12 points, shot 43% from the 3. Think he'll be a big piece for Passner there. And then Al Green from La Tech, another guy, averaged 10 points, shot 42%.
Love and happiness, Al Green. Let's go.
And then Howie Fleming, and yet again, another guy, averaged 12 points, shot over 42% from the 3. So as you can see, brings in three guards there at kind of the mid-major ranks, averaging double figures, shooting over 40% from the 3. Kind of tells you what he's going to try to maybe do, possibly. But then you back it up with Kamani Hamilton there at High Point. He was a guy last 2 years, was kind of a staple there for High Point, averaged 13 points, 5 rebounds. So he's a guy there in the front court that can get it done. Kind of a smaller sized 3-4 guy, but I think, you know, they're maybe going to get back to that UNLV running Rebels, Jerry Tarkarian style. So I'm kind of excited to see what Passner is going to kind of deploy here. And then one other guy that I'll mention, two other guys I wanted to mention, Nos Cunningham, redshirt from Alabama, Emmanuel Steffen from Arizona, another kind of bounce back high major guys that unproven, don't really know much on, but we'll see if they can make an impact. But guy I'm kind of curious about is Kiwi Walter Brown. Comes from the NBL there in Australia, New Zealand. Averaged 13.5 points, 6 rebounds, and a steal and a half a game. Only has 1 year of eligibility left just due to, I guess, the eligibility criteria and stuff with how many years he's played in there in the NBL. But I'm intrigued by him. I'm bringing him over. He obviously provided significant production at that level, so I think he'll be able to translate that and make an immediate impact here in the Mountain West. So, yeah, they're kind of my wild card team. I'm not quite sure what to expect. I'm curious to see kind of how Passner deploys his philosophy, what he kind of does with this team that he kind of came in and had to piece together through the transfer portal. But you know, I'm intrigued.
All right. Utah State, the Aggies, Logan, Utah, jumping, rocking stadium. 26-8, 15-5, finished third last season for Jared Calhoun, who was a good year one. Talk about year one coaches. It was a good year one under Jared Calhoun. It's got to be. You got to win at Utah State. A lot of money, a lot of money poured into the basketball team. So tons of good talent. You do lose a lot to the transfer portal, but this is a team that always has depth. They're going to play 12 guys. They're gonna always have that in Utah. So they always are going to be that run and gun, going to shoot you around. Even who the coach is, it's always going to be that system. So I like Utah State. They got a lot more physical. They always have size, and those size guys can be spot up shooters as well too. I think Utah State is always going to be competitive, tough place to play. They're going to get home wins. Again, I think is always a good bet. And then you have Mason Falsev, who definitely could be a player of the year in the conference. He's going to be an absolute beast, playing both sides of the ball. I like Utah State. I think they have really good guard play, really good front court. They're going to be a good two-way on offense, and also being able to play on defense as well with the physicality. So I like Utah State yet again, and year two for Jared Calhoun with a little revenge spot to, I feel like they blew some leads and then sometimes just didn't show up. So they're going to be able to get those revenges that they did and blew those leads to a couple of those top teams. But Calhoun definitely has that on his mind and a couple of those dates circled for next year that he will be ready to go for. So, yeah, I like the Aggies, Utah State.
Yeah, I mean, Utah State, the program that's the trampoline for head coaches. You know, you get Ryan Odom, boom, trampolines goes on. Danny Sprinkle, boom, goes on. It's only a matter of time till Jared Calhoun has another successful year here in the Mountain West. And even though they're going to the Pac-12, he'll get a Power 5 job. And Utah State will have to find somebody. And of course, they obviously will. They'll find another successful young head coach, and then trampoline and rinse, wash, repeat, start it all over again. But yeah, you know, they got 5 rotation pieces back. You mentioned Falslev. Drake Allen's another guy, backcourt running mate for him, averaged 7 points, 4 assists. Tucker Anderson, another guard. And then they got the big man, Carson Templin, 7.5 points, 5 rebounds, big 7-footer there. Another guy that they're kind of high on this year, I know, from what I've read, is Jordy Barnes. He's a kid that wasn't even on scholarship. They actually put him on scholarship now, but really down the stretch in crunch time, he was a guy that was on the floor for them. 70 assists to 25 turnovers last year. Didn't play a lot of minutes, but when they needed him most, he was able to deliver and handle the ball appropriately. And then they brought in a lot of good pieces there in the portal, like we have mentioned with Air Force. All their good pieces always transfer out. Luke Kearney comes from Air Force, averaged 9 points, 3 rebounds. Bringing MJ Collins from Vanderbilt, I think he's going to make an immediate impact, kind of dropping down from the SEC. Zach Keller, a guy from Utah, kind of the in-state rival there, comes there. He's a big 7'1" guy. Like Utah seems to have like 6 of those on their team, so they disposed of a couple of those at Utah State apparently. And then another guy, Gary Clark, comes from Texas A&M Corpus Christi, averaged 15 points, almost 8 rebounds a game. And then lastly, Colby King, guy from Butler, just under 6 points. Yet another guy that came from the high major ranks is now coming back down. So I expect him to have a good impact here, you know. And we look at Jared Calhoun's team as a whole, 20th last year in offensive efficiency. And so I feel like, you know, he's a guy that's predicated on his offensive efficiency, and that definitely showed in year one. I think he is going to want to make that known and want to make that an emphasis again. And then the cool thing I think that they're doing is they actually have Memphis come in February, kind of almost like a bracket buster game. So I think they're trying to maybe hopefully bring back bracket busters like we used to have back in the day. I'm hopeful that maybe we can start that back up. That was always a fun week when they had all those games in mid-February with all those mid-major teams in bracket busters. So hopefully this is the start of bringing back the bracket buster.
We got 24 hours of hoops November 3rd, big betting show November 2nd night. Stay tuned. Final team in the conference, Wyoming Cowboys out of Laramie, Wyoming. Last season, 12-20. Mountain West 5-15, finished 9th under 1 returning starter. And Trevor left us to go talk a different sport yet again. Sundance Wicks, year 2. He cannot be here to defend the old Green Bay coach that built that team up from the bottom up and got that team to be a winner. So maybe he can do that this year in year 2. It definitely was a rough go at it. Talent-wise, definitely not the best team in the conference, but they're going to have more experience this year. I think that they're definitely going to have better shooting, and I think should take a small step up, I guess, from last year, but not much. I think the future's bright for Wyoming and their basketball program to get back what they were in the Maldonado days. But you do have bring in Uriah Rojas, 26 points per game. So another JUCO transfer. You bring in a Texas A&M Corpus Christi transfer, Demarion Dennis. That feels like a solid addition. And then a Florida Atlantic piece. So that's got to get Trevor excited. We'll have to tell him about Florida Atlantic as well, too, going to play under Sundance Wicks. And then Caden Bennett from Quinnipiac as well, going to be an amazing shooter in Laradise. So, I think Wyoming going to be competitive at times, but consistency may be an issue for them, but definitely a jump up from last season with 5 wins in the conference.
Yeah, you look at the tempo. Is his team going to be another one of those teams that plays slow? They were 318th in tempo last year. Played even slower at his 1 year at Green Bay before he came to Wyoming. I think they were like 340th or something in tempo when he was there. So I think you'll see maybe a little bit of an increase in pace with what they brought in and the guards that they brought in. They also bring in a couple D2 guys, Adam Harako and Keone Saxon. Keone Saxon, he comes from D2 Missouri Western, which is where Sundance Wicks was before he was at Green Bay. And in terms of that, when he was at Missouri Western, he actually did run a little bit more up-tempo pace style of play. And so I think maybe he implements that a little bit more. I just don't see the people that he brought back and the incoming guys. If he plays that slow style of pace, I just think he's going to get eaten up by the top 6 in this conference, top 5 in this conference. So I think he's going to have to, play a little chess, not necessarily checkers, and see if he can increase some pace, kind of push the tempo a little bit, and have some success. I think you look at last year, they started 11-10, not terrible, but then they ended up finishing 1-10 in their last 11. So definitely a terrible way to end the year. We'll see. I don't know if it's, I'm not super high on this team, and I don't even know if it's going to be a good fit for them as a whole going forward. So I'm interested to see how this team looks, and here in the next couple of years, and just see if he can make a difference, make a little impact, and get back to those years, like you said, of the Maldonado, Ike. But we'll see. I'm personally, I'll believe it when I see it.
All right. That's the Mountain West, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We do have our predictions. We're going to go top to bottom. Make sure to like and subscribe at Pump Fake Pod. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in the chat. Raymond, Virgil, John, appreciate you guys chopping it up with us, talking Mountain West. We got 6 conferences left, and then our big betting show November 2nd. So make sure to like and subscribe. Spread the word for the big betting show for night 1 here in November 3rd. Coming right up.
Yeah.
But first, go ahead, Elliot.
Before we get into these, I just want to make sure. I was going to try to do this beforehand, but we kind of just started in on this on it real quick. But we mentioned Grand Canyon coming in, makes the 12th team, and then you've got next year you've got 5 leaving. So basically all the states. You got Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, and Utah State. They're all leaving and going to the Pac-12, which then puts this conference at 7. And then, as we've talked before, when we were talking about the WAC and then the West Coast or the Big West, we bring in 3, 2 from the WAC, 1 from the Big West, Hawaii, UTEP, and UC Davis. That's going to round out, and that'll be kind of your new Mountain West, 10 teams like it was last year. And so that'll be what's coming for the Mountain West here in the future. But I'm excited for this year, and just the amount of talent and all these 5, 6, 7 teams that are going to be highly competitive.
Elliot, if you have it, why don't you go in and share your top 11 for the Missouri Valley, or just you can say stay tuned for the graphic on our Twitter if you want to. Oh, you're on mute.
Stay tuned for the graphic, because I meant to grab that, but I don't know. I wrote it out on a different piece of paper than I usually have. I have my pamphlet to keep them all, but
easier. The graphic's easier. It'll be more displayed, and it stays there like a tattoo. But
stay tuned. I'll get it after this show, and when I send Trevor the Mountain West, I'll send him over the Missouri Valley as well, and we'll get both of those sent up.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Elliot, you can start off, though, since you didn't get to share yesterday. Number 12 for the Mountain
12 Easy Air Force.
12 Easy Air Force. I will join you as well.
And number 11, I'm going to have to go Fresno State.
Okay. Number 11 for me is Wyoming.
Ooh. I like that. I like that. I'm actually going to go Wyoming at number 10. No. Yes. I'm going to go Wyoming at number 10.
And we're flipped because number 10 for me is Fresno State.
Okay. Number 9, I've got San Jose State.
9 for me is San Jose State as well.
All right. And then number 8 for me is going to be UNLV.
Number 8 for me is going to be Colorado State.
Okay. Number 7 for me is going to be New Mexico.
7 for me is UNLV.
6 for me is Nevada.
6 for me is New Mexico.
5 for me is Colorado State.
5 for me is Nevada.
4 for me is going to be. This is hard. These top 4 are hard.
They are.
So I'm going to go. Let me do this real quick. I'm going to put my top 2 because I have those locked in. And then that means I got those. So I'm going to go. 4 for me is Utah State.
4 for me is Boise State.
3 for me is Boise State.
3 for me is Grand Canyon.
2 for me is Grand Canyon, which means I'm going number 1, San Diego State. I think they're by far the best team here in the Mountain West, and it would be foolish of me. I wanted to pick Grand Canyon, but up a class, San Diego State. I just think too much talent.
2 for me, we're flopped there. San Diego State, first Utah State. I think Calhoun gets a little revenge here, wins the regular season, but we're going to see a random winner in the conference tournament as always. So great conference, great home stuff. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We just went through all top 12. Looks like Trevor got popped in. If you want to share your 12 real quick before we take off here.
I didn't get them all marked down, but I know I'm missing like Wyoming and a couple others on this list. But Air Force app is going to be dead last. Fresno is going to be right above them. I got New Mexico finishing in the back. Colorado State in the back. My top 3 are going to be San Diego State, Boise State, and Grand Canyon. I do like Nevada, but I got them sitting in 4th or 5th. I'm higher on their potential ceiling than them hitting the actual floor. So I'll have it out with you guys, but those are my top 3 or 4 for sure.
I'm gonna
stay tuned for the graphic. We got Missouri Valley graphic and Mountain West. Elliot's picks will be Missouri Valley, and then Trevor's picks will be on the Mountain West. So.
Yep, and I'm Benedicting. I'm Benedicting. I'm Boise State at 4, Utah State at 3.
All right, he hears that I picked Utah State, and he's like, "All right, I might jump him up one."
Just a little one game, little one spot bump.
Yep, and no, this isn't a Purdue choo-choo train. This is Rock Hollow Golf Club, everyone. So this is the Pump Fake Pod. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Mountain West Conference tomorrow, West Coast Conference Thursday, Big East. Start the P5s and knock them all down. 4 episodes after that the following week, and then only 2 episodes for futures. And then November 2nd, the big episode, Virgil, Redman, Raymond, Coach, Sirianni, John. Thanks, everyone, for tuning into the chat. You guys are the best. I'm a little higher on UNLV, I think, so than people are. But so look out for Passner. Appreciate everyone tuning in. This is the Pump Fake Pod. Make sure to like, and subscribe. Thanks, everyone.